last few weeks, we have gone deeper and deeper into what it means for us individually and what it will take for us to step into bigger, more expansive expressions of the one life, of the infinite wholeness that we are. And we have discovered that there is one quality in human existence that can open up to us our divine greatness, or it can close us. It can make us feel small. And we have discovered that there is one quality, and that quality, we can embrace it and live from it to the fullness of the divine, so that the fullness of the divine can express through and as us. And we are free to share our gifts, sing our songs, and speak our truth, not feel so confined and small. As I said, dance our dance. We all have one to do. Be and do that which is what we came here to be and do. But that same quality, if not embraced and not lived from within us, keeps us in that tiny, small box. Comfortable, wonderful, we know it's going to happen. We think we know it's going to happen, but we are not opening up to the greatness of who we really are. It is a constricted, restricted version of who we truly are. It's freedom in being who we are. This quality has been identified through scientific research done by Brene Brown, and she spoke of this in her really great book, Dare Greatly. And what is that quality? Do we all know? Excuse me? Thank you. Glad someone's paying attention. Vulnerability, my favorite word of the month has been. Vulnerable, in fact, it's the willingness to be vulnerable. Daring greatly to be scared and do it anyway. Not know how, but try anyway. Feel self-conscious, but show up anyway. Not have any clue of the outcome, but do it anyway. Being afraid of getting hurt, but opening our heart up anyway. And we've looked at this all of February, and we're finishing it today. And you had an assignment, if you chose to do it, was to go out and be a little vulnerable in life. Dip your toes in the sea of vulnerability. And today is our last exploration into this topic by peeling away two pieces of vulnerability. Can't wait, this is over. I'm never going to use that word again. I'll use vulnerable, though. Anyway, we're going to peel away these, we're calling them armor. It shields us. We think it keeps us safe. And we're going to peel them away today. And a side note, this is a side note, a very interesting observation that Brown found in her scientific research. Every single person Brown had studied in her years on this topic, every single person without exception spoke of struggling to one degree or another with being vulnerable. It takes courage, it really does, to be vulnerable, and you'll see why. So I want all of us to realize that if this is an issue for you, if this is really hard for you to be and do, you're not alone. You are not alone. We're all here together. We're all in this together, folks. This is a humankind reality that we are living in. So we're all here together and in this community particularly, it's why we're in community. We're here to be there for everyone. A safe place that you can go and know that we're not going to talk about politics and fear and hate. We're not going to talk about that. I'll tell you what though, I have to say this. Just living today. See, I'm vulnerable all the time. Just living in the world, in this country and many countries today, you have to be vulnerable. You really have to be vulnerable because no one knows what's really going on. So we're vulnerable. We always remember that we are powerful spirits of light. That's how we stay sane. That's how I stay sane. We stay centered in knowing that this is an infinite multiverse that we live in. And the possibilities and potential are limitless. So stay open to that. Stay open to that. So 2 forms of shielding that we're going to look at this morning, and she refers to them as common vulnerability arsenal. We have these, some of us. Because she found that we all incorporate them in our personal armor in some way. And once we explore these 2 shields a bit, we will provide a look at daring greatly, a strategy. A strategy to look at them, what they are not, what they are, and how we can deal with them in life. So the first piece of armor, Brown calls foreboding joy. This is a paradoxical dread that clamps down around our momentary joyfulness when we're feeling this great joy. And tell me if you recognize any of this. You realize how much you love your partner, or you are feeling how good life is right now. You love your job, just loving it. Or you are so excited because you just got engaged. Or the doctor tells you your cancer went into remission. Or you're standing over your baby's crib feeling overwhelmed with love. All of these beautiful, sweet, precious life moments and moments of high vulnerability. But then this happens sometimes. This happens. You realize how much you love your partner, and suddenly you are overwhelmed with fear that your partner will leave you. You are feeling how good life is right now, and then you see your life taking a really wrong turn down a dark alley. This is all in our minds, right? You are really loving your job. But suddenly, you're paralyzed by the realization that in this economy, it won't be long before you get downsized or it's terminated. You are excited because you just got engaged. And immediately, on the heels of that excitement, this dread feeling comes over you that your fiancé will dump you and find out who you really are. Now, I know in a spiritual center that is based on the idea that since we are expressions of the infinite creator, we are creative beings. We are all creating our experiences. We are. Thus, what we think and feel is what we create in our lives. And we might not be able to admit that we do any of that. We can stuff it down. We don't even do that. But a lot of us do things like that. We're having it good, and then it's like, oh, what if? And not what if in a good way, what if down that rabbit hole way. This phenomena is that the instant, deep, sweet joy starts to bubble up within us, which makes us very vulnerable to being hurt. We slap that armor of foreboding on it and close it down within us. And that's what research shows that we do. This is what she was studying. That's why her book is so great. And you can watch her on TED Talks on vulnerability. So, does anyone know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Okay, we got a slight idea. So why on earth are we doing it? Why are we doing it? Well, the answer is pretty straightforward. We're trying to beat vulnerability to the punch. We've got to get it all covered. Everything has to be covered. We don't want to be blindsided by hurt. We don't want to be caught off guard. So we literally are paralyzed and devastated. No, we don't want to be paralyzed with devastation and disappointment. So when the real thing happens, it won't hurt as much when we're prepared. And she has this story in her book that she talks about. This guy was in her study, and he said this: I used to think the best way to go through life was to expect the worst. Now I know that from firsthand because I had a mother like that. Everything was the worst. Expect the worst, don't get too happy and excited over that because you don't know what's going to happen. So anyway, I can relate to this. Maybe you can. That way, if you expect the worst, if it happened, you would be prepared. So this is this man talking about this. He said, and then I was in a car accident and my wife was killed. Needless to say, expecting the worst didn't prepare me at all. And worse, I still grieve for all those wonderful moments my wife and I shared, and that I didn't fully enjoy. That's what he's grieving for. My commitment to her memory is to fully enjoy every moment now. I just wish you were here, now that I know how to do that. Many people go through life expecting the absolute worst, and we know that what we focus on grows. So, how do we remove that piece of armor from ourselves? It keeps us so small because we're so afraid. We live in fear. It keeps us restricted and constricted, and that absolutely prevents us from being our greatest self. And Brown writes this: even those who have learned how to lean into joy and embrace their experience are not immune to the uncomfortable quake of vulnerability that often accompanies those joyful moments. They've just learned how to use it as a reminder rather than a warning shot. So when that comes up, it's a reminder. What was the most surprising and life-changing difference was the nature of that reminder. For those welcoming the experience, the shudder of vulnerability that accompanies joy is an invitation, she says, to practice gratitude, to acknowledge how truly grateful we are for the person, the beauty, the connection, or simply the moment before us. To be grateful, and it's always going to come back to that, because it is a game changer. It is a life changer. To be grateful. Find something to be grateful for. Be grateful that you're here. You know, be grateful that we have food downstairs. Be grateful for something. Gratitude, therefore, emerged from the data as the antidote to forbearing joy. In fact, every participant in Brown's study who spoke about the ability to stay open to joy also talked about the importance of practicing gratitude, always. Brown was taken by surprise by something that will be no surprise to us here, because we always speak about gratitude and how important that is for changing our vibration in this vibratory world that we live in. So, research participants consistently described both joyfulness and gratitude as spiritual practices that were tied to the belief that we're connected to a higher power. I don't know about you, but that brings me so much comfort and so much gratitude. And that higher power is the power within. It's not a separate power. We have access to that power at all times. It's who we are. It's who we are, but we forget. And we let circumstances in life throw us off kilt, just throws us off. But we can come back by practicing gratitude. There's stories and descriptions expanding on this point to a clear distinction between happiness and joy. That's a distinction. Joy is a divine quality. It's an absolute, whereas happiness is a human emotion. Participants described happiness, I just said this, as an emotion. That's connected to circumstances, things that go on. And they describe joy as a spiritual way of engaging with the world. And that's connecting to gratitude, to be grateful that we can even have a feeling of joy. And again, the words of Science of Mind founder Ernest Holmes, I love this one too. We all look forward to the day when science and religion walk hand in hand through the visible into the invisible. It is happening now. You won't see that covered much in the news. Popular Mechanics is a great magazine. You would think it's about mechanical things, but it really is about quantum physics and how this is all being proved, that we create our lives through our consciousness. Everything is consciousness. Brown learned most about gratitude practices and the relationships they have to passing through vulnerability to joy. From men and women who had experienced some of the most profound losses and survived some of the greatest traumas. These included parents whose children had died, family members with terminally ill loved ones, and trauma survivors. Their unified wisdom was this, she wrote: be grateful for what you have. Don't take what you have for granted. Celebrate it. Don't apologize for what you have. Be grateful for it and share your gratitude with others. When you honor what you have, you are honoring what you lost. So that's for all of us to remember when we think, I have nothing to be grateful for. With all this stuff going on, and I could be losing this and that's happening, and we can always find something in our lives to be grateful for. So our second piece of heavy armor to peel away today is the armor of perfectionism. Maybe some of you can relate to that. Or believing that doing everything perfectly means you'll never have shame. But here's the truth. Perfectionism is not the path that leads to our true gifts and to the sense of purpose. Rather, it is a hazardous detour. We were on our class Wednesday, and we go into breakout rooms, and I had my partner, and we were talking about some, I don't know what it was, but a big core belief that's running our lives, even till today, until we realize it, and even then, we have trouble pulling up those strands of it. And her story was, she was in a class, she was in high school, she was in a class, and she got 98 in this math test that everyone in the room got 70, 60, or failed, right? She was so happy she got 98. And she goes home and shows her father, and she's like so excited about this. And he says, so what happened to the other 2%? That one sentence still rules her life today. She's realizing it now, and she's realizing how much time she wasted in trying to be perfect in the human sense of perfect, which is impossible. It's impossible. So, because we can sometimes get confused between the spiritual idea, because we'll say, we're perfect, we're whole, and we are complete, and that's true, spiritually. But on the human realm, that curse, actually, of perfectionism is something that will bring us down, and we'll never feel the gratitude and appreciation of who we really are. But I appreciate the descriptions of what perfectionism is and is not that Brown's research brought forth. She actually researched this stuff, which is so interesting, I find. And here's the definition of perfectionism that bubbled up as a result of her research. At first, actually, this is what it is not. It is not the same as striving for excellence. It is not about healthy achievement and growth. Rather, perfectionism is a defense move. It is the belief that if we do things perfectly and look perfect, we can minimize or avoid the pain of blame, judgment, and shame. And she says this, perfectionism is a 20-ton shield that we lug around thinking it will protect us, when in fact it's the very thing that is preventing us from being seen, because we think everyone is judging us, and so therefore we judge ourselves. Perfectionism is not about self-improvement. Perfectionism is, at the core, about trying to earn approval. Most perfectionists grew up being praised, or not, like my friend, for achievements. School grades, sports, how they looked, all of that stuff. I am what I accomplish is in their belief system. I am what I accomplish and how well I accomplish it. Therefore, I must perform perfectly. If you're in that mindset of perfectionism, it is a burden and a barrier. Healthy striving is self-focused. How can I improve? Where perfectionism is other focus. What will they think of me? What will people think of me? Perfectionism is not the key to success. In fact, research shows that perfectionism hampers achievement. Perfectionism is correlated with depression, anxiety, addiction, and leaves us paralyzed, or we feel like we missed opportunities. The fear of failing is big with that. Look at that one sentence spoken to this person. Where are the other 2%? That one remained a deep core belief to this day operating within her. So Our subconscious is always at work, and is always putting out whatever is in it. And sometimes our conscious mind is not aware of it. In fact, most of the time it's not. So lastly, perfectionism is not a way to avoid shame. And it is kind of a form of shame. I'll never be good enough. I'm so embarrassed. I didn't do that perfectly well. When we struggle for perfectionism, we struggle with shame. So Daring Greatly, which is the name of her book, Daring Greatly means appreciating the reality of the cracks. You know, it's like the Asian people, if you have something that has a crack in it, and they fill it with 24 karat gold. And I used to have a bowl. That's gone. But I used to have a bowl that had that crack in it, and it was filled with the gold because it was beautiful. And we all have cracks within us. So, I can find it. In the words of Ernest Holmes, we'll go to Ernest Holmes before. I'm remembering that he wrote this. We must try to see and sense that always, back of the appearance, perfection is. This is divine perfection. Truth, being. We are already perfect. We are already perfect in who we are, unique in who we are. In the words of Leonard Cohen's incredible song, Anthem, there's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. And I would like to add, that's how the light gets out as well. We shine our light when we acknowledge and appreciate who we are, without judging all the time. And so, my friends, this concludes this exploration of daring greatly to be vulnerable. It brings it all to a close for this time. And how to maybe drop some of the armor that we drag around with us, thinking it keeps us safe. They're really old core beliefs that no longer serve us, and we still have them operating within us. But there's no way of expressing and feeling great joy and great gratitude when we have this armor attached to us. So we just work on letting it go, on dropping it, and remind ourselves consciously, I am perfect in who I am. I am filled with gratitude for being alive in this very important time on this planet. So that would be the conclusion of vulnerability.